Welcome back to the Plant Power Podcast. My name is Ian Beckles. Hope everybody's had a wonderful week. Now, when I set out to do this podcast, it was for me and for you guys as well, all you guys and gals out there. So to get you guys hip to all the things happening in our community and really the community around the United States, but for the way plants can help us. Okay, it started off as the cannabis podcast, and my life has turned into more than that with Kava and kratom and some different things I'm exploring with. So one of the things that I've always been curious about that I've not explored really yet is ayahuasca. And it's one of those things that's come to, it's been in the news here as of late because Aaron Rodgers said that he did ayahuasca the last 2 years. He won an MVP. It's not quite helping him this year, but you know, he's obviously did some good things for him. And ayahuasca is just something I've always been curious about, but I'll be honest with you, I know almost nothing about it. So when I don't know anything about something, what I do is I bring in the experts, okay? And that's what this young man is right here. Anthony Thiebaut, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Good to see you.
Good to have you.
Good to
now,
see you.
Thiebaut spelled not like Tim Tebow.
Nope.
Spelled the French way.
Yep.
It's the right way. That's the right way. I'm not a Gator fan, so it's all good. Now, Anthony, talk to me a little bit about what you do.
Well, the last 30 years, I have been, I jumped into the whole plant medicine.
Okay.
The 90s, I traveled around toward the end with the Grateful Dead.
Good.
And of course, you know, that was smoking and doing mushrooms and different things, you know. But when Jerry Garcia died, things opened up.
Sure.
You know, and friends were like, hey, you got to go to Hawaii type of thing. And
opened up in what way?
Traveling with the Grateful Dead opened up trust, family, learning, and a whole like a little utopia with it. Sure. So when Jerry Garcia died, there was nowhere for those of us that made jewelry and different things and followed the Grateful Dead for a living. Sure, friends were like, hey, when when the Grateful Dead stop touring, we go to Hawaii for the winter. And I'm like, okay, you know. So I started having visions out west in Sedona that ended up getting me to Hawaii. Long story short, you know, I went to the Hopi reservation, learned about the prophecy, and it like sent me my way to Hawaii. I get to Hawaii, and the visions that I have had to get to that spot were coming from the peyote. Okay. I was being called toward the peyote, and here I am on the island of Maui. We got invited to a sweat lodge, did a sweat lodge. The elders that were there, Kauai Pialani and Maui, said there's a native elder coming that is bringing peyote, and you need to learn, you know. And it was just like it just lined up, you know, the visions that I had been having. So I met with Kingfisher and started doing the peyote ceremonies, and he told us from the beginning, he's like, there's 2 schools on the island right now, and believe it or not, it was peyote and ayahuasca. Really? Both of them were on the islands, and he told us at that time, he's like, don't jump back and forth. He goes, follow one. Okay. And with me, since the visions that I had, you know, getting me to meet with him in the peyote were my visions, that's where I stayed. Okay. So we did ceremonies every weekend for 9 months a year for about 6 years. And then during the 3 months off, we stayed on the islands while the native friends went back to do Sundance and stuff. We stayed on the islands and learned from the Hawaiians about mushrooms and about kava and different things, you know. So that was like a 6-year intense school, you know. And then I find myself in California where I'm learning how to grow medicinal marijuana in 2001. Good. So that all happened in California. To where I am now, about 8 years ago, I moved down here to Florida and reconnected with an old friend from Hawaii. Good. And we had not seen each other for 18 years. He told me that he had been, you know, doing the peyote, but then he had started doing the ayahuasca ceremonies. And he asked me if I had done ayahuasca, and I go, no, but it's calling me. No doubt. She's calling me, you know. So,
when you say she's calling me, explain what that is to anybody. What's that mean?
Well, it's hard to understand what it means until you actually partake with the medicine. But once you take the medicine, you realize that the ayahuasca is a mother spirit. She's very mothering, whereas like peyote is the grandfather.
Like people talk about the medicine or the plants, like it's actually a person.
Yeah, there's definitely spirits. Okay. And what they want to do is they want to help us perfect our human being. Okay. And so that we can plug back in and be good with the planet. Sure, yeah. And that's what these plants are telling me right now. So about 8 years ago, two different ayahuasca plants found themselves to me.
Okay.
One came from Miami and one came from Maui, or Big Island. And what happened was they came and they were the same cutting that Terrence McKenna had taken out of the jungle back in the early 90s.
Okay.
He was going to his reserve in Hawaii, but he had to quarantine him in Miami. So his friend kept one of the cuttings. So I got a cutting from an old plant that's down there, and I got a cutting from an old plant in Maui, or on Big Island, I keep saying Maui. I planted them both in my yard, and now they're growing up this oak tree 40 feet up the tree, up over to the other side of the house. So like my apothecary, my studio, my bedroom are under the ayahuasca vine.
So ayahuasca is obviously a huge part of your life
Yeah.
and growing and plants in general. Is it a process? Because, I mean, I used to drink. I don't drink alcohol anymore.
Good.
And I smoke marijuana. I indulge a little bit with mushrooms. I don't really mess around too much. I'm just kind of experimenting a little bit.
Yep.
Is it a process? Is the next step ayahuasca? Is it peyote? What's the next step?
Well, with me, like I've been doing the peyote ceremonies for 30 years. I'm a fire chief in the Native American church training of this because I've been doing it for 30 years. I cured myself with peyote. And
Explain what that means. You cured yourself.
Peyote there are 60 different alkaloids in peyote, and they help purge the body and cells of different things.
So you purge every time?
Yeah, well, not every time. Not every time. I'm at the point now where purging doesn't happen because I've done it so many times.
Okay.
So the peyote medicine told me in a ceremony in Michigan that I need to learn from the mother relative down south.
Okay.
Because peyote right now is extremely endangered in the wild in the United States, like really super.
Is it illegal?
It's peyote is illegal unless you're a member of the Native American church doing ceremonies on the reservation.
Wow.
So it's
a technicality.
Yeah. And I'm all about decriminalizing that because right now it's an endangered species. But so this grandfather's telling me that I need to learn from the grandmother of the South, and to me that's pulling in the prophecy of the eagle and the condor.
Okay.
Okay. From the two continents, bringing them together. So within my realm, when I say my realm, like my gardens, my yard, I have the different sacraments in the ayahuasca vine. Like I said, I've been growing it for 8 years now. She started giving me flowers that I put in my Florida water spray.
Beautiful.
And she started giving me seeds, and I've been sending the seeds to different spots, the friends that are buying them in India to plant them in India. So we know that the medicine, she's moving.
Sure.
And all the plants are like this. The peyote seeds are the same. The peyote cactuses are the same ways. If they're not living the way they should be in the wild, because like right now the stuff on the southern border is really doing damage to the peyote in the wild down in those areas, the Zapotec, Hogg, Boss County, Zapotec, Miranda City area, South Texas. But so with like learning from the grandfather, and now for the last 8 years learning from the grandmother, she's been showing me how, with her medicine, she can rewire your mental thinking, and I tell people, she listens to our prayers, and when I say prayers, I'm not talking like Catholicism or this or that. It's like just having a spiritual understanding that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and we're living on an entity that we're part of, that we came from, and we need to understand that we're not just a sore on her. We're here to help.
No doubt. Well, talk to me about the ceremony, the peyote ceremony, as opposed to an ayahuasca ceremony.
Well, peyote ceremony is sun up to sundown, and ayahuasca is usually 3.5, 4 hours. So you're looking at it, in the summertime, you're looking at an 8-hour ceremony. In the wintertime, you're looking at a 12 to 14-hour ceremony.
Ceremony meaning ingesting the whole time? How does that work?
With the peyote ceremony, it's the way that I was raised with this medicine ever since I was 18 was to it's done in a sacred setting around a fire in a teepee with a certain ceremonial format.
Okay.
Right? And there's a fire chief, a roadman, the drummer, the cedar band, and the water woman.
A fire chief?
The fire chief. And it's funny thing. I guess I gotta clarify that.
Explain that one. Yeah.
The roadman is like the road chief. Then you got the chief of the drum, and then you got the chief of the cedar. Then you got the chiefess of the water, which is the roadman's partner usually. Then you got the fire chief. The fire chief takes care of the fire.
Okay.
All right. And there's a as you're learning in this way, you usually start by doing the door. You hold the door for the fireman or pumping that's leaving. So that's like a service. And then the fire chief's job is to have the hearth
Okay.
And I'm writing a book right now called From the Hearth, with parentheses around hearth, so it's actually heart from the hearth. Firekeeper's transcendental approach to tending sacred ceremonial fire.
Okay.
And it's about how to start fire from hand and different things. Different kind of fires mean different things, and most people don't know that because
Different type of fires mean different things.
You got the fire from the heart,
Okay.
which is like mana oha. You're bringing your heart essence, like that Christ light. You're bringing it out through friction, and then you're blowing your oha, your breath of life onto it. So it's mana oha. You're bringing that inner fire out. So now you're tending your own fire.
Sure.
And to me, that is a much more spiritual fire than starting something with a big lighter and just spraying
doubt.
something on it.
Now, the ayahuasca thing to me, once again, being on the radio when ayahuasca came up with, Aaron Rodgers, I don't even like Aaron Rodgers. That's the only thing he's ever said that makes me understand what he's trying to say. The rest of it, I don't understand what he's doing. But I knew a little bit about it, but I knew very little about ayahuasca. I don't even know how to spell it, to be honest with you. I don't even know if I've ever seen it on a piece of paper. But for somebody like yourself who grows it, the ceremony, the whole 9 yards, I mean, how unique is it? Like, once again, I don't know if I even heard of ayahuasca until maybe last year.
Right.
How unique is it to the United States?
It's really unique, but what's interesting is it's becoming really popular in Florida.
I can see that.
And I think it has a lot to do with the different native cultures that are coming in from South America and in the islands in Mexico and different things. And Florida, seems to be, part of it.
Sure.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that we're all together. But just having the influx of the different cultures coming in and sharing it. Plus, Florida's right here.
Sure.
So it's easy for for medicine people to come up through Miami with family and stuff like that.
Sure.
And then it starts. But with us, like I said, with me, it started with acquiring the plant.
Okay.
And the plant's called Banisterius caapi. It has no DMT. The ayahuasca vine itself has no DMT.
Has no DMT.
There's other plants that are added to it to create that.
And that's what makes you purge, if I may ask?
Well, that's what makes the brew. The purging is the medicine working through your cells and clearing the toxicity.
Okay.
And it's not just on a physical level, it's emotional, all the way up. And once you clear the physical, the emotional, you get to the spiritual, and that's when you take the rust off your soul.
What do they talk about ego? Everybody talks about, when I hear ayahuasca, they say it rids you of your ego. And what does that mean exactly?
It's a term that's thrown around a lot. And I tell people you need to have an ego to help you go on with your daily life.
I would think so.
But you don't use your ego to strive for just mundane things. You're like everybody's got their own unique ego, and ego is like an identity. It's a mask.
Yeah.
As to say, it's like persona.
Okay.
Persona is a Greek word that is a mask. And that's what these medicines have taught me, is that we all have that aspect of God in us, and that we are the mask, and through our senses, we're experiencing the creation.
Absolutely.
And if we would all come to that understanding, war would disappear, hatred, all this stuff that seems to be pushed on us, that most of us know we don't want to be like.
Absolutely.
So
for a Hamanegger like myself, who, listen, I smoke weed and I can just do a couple things, but I'm really curious about ayahuasca. If I want to get into a ceremony or just find out about it, okay, what would be the first step?
Well, with me, I mean, you're in contact with me. I'm in contact with basically every ayahuasca facilitator and church in the country, because I supply them with my Florida water for ceremony.
So you don't mess with, you're one of the ayahuasca.
Oh yeah,
gurus.
When my mom passed away right before COVID, she said, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home with the Father, because you don't need to be pushing me around if shit hits the fan.
Did it have anything to do with COVID?
She died a month before the COVID hit. Like, my mom knew something was going to. Nope.
No.
She died of. She had kidney failure, breast cancer, and lung cancer.
That'll do it.
And she didn't want to be on any drugs, no chemo, no nothing. She died natural.
Wow.
Just like my father, they both died.
Yeah.
They both died with me in the living room.
Okay.
So, but to me, with the peyote, I always pray to and ask for guidance for all my ancestors, including my parents, all the way back.
Sure.
And when you do enough of the peyote and you're sitting in ceremony, all your ancestors are there.
Interesting.
Interesting. There's no joke. They're right there with you, and they know that you're helping as you're praying in the ceremony and purging that stuff out of you. You're helping your whole bloodline, your rest of your family, on an energetic level that people don't understand. And ayahuasca does the same thing.
Well, there's some people I want to run into. That is for sure. Now, for a ceremony, an ayahuasca ceremony, take me through the steps. I really is it it's a liquid that you just
it's a tea. It's a tea. But here's the thing. Originally, ayahuasca was between the ayahuasquero. They never used the word shaman. Shaman's as a European, Asian word that was brought in and kind of like it's not shamanism.
Sure.
So, you drink this tea, and it used to be just the ayahuasquero and the person wanted healing.
Okay.
That was it. Somehow it got this Western influence to where people could start making money. The more people they got in, so all of a sudden the ayahuasquero becomes more of a showman. And this medicine doesn't know the paradigm of good and evil.
Okay.
It amplifies whatever's in your heart. It can be used by light workers or the dark workers. And I've seen both, and I've witnessed both, and I've seen the same thing with peyote. It's like there's dual sides to dual sides to it.
You say it could be used for good and bad?
Yeah.
How can it be used for bad?
Well, I shouldn't say bad. It could amplify whatever's in the person that's yes.
Okay.
It amplifies, like, let's say the person who's serving it has bad intentions.
Yeah.
That's
okay. I can see that.
Or their goal is, let's say, to raise money, to use that money that you're raising in ceremony to buy a piece of land somewhere else.
Understand.
And I see that happening here in Florida. People traveling around, getting donations here, and then they're finding an island somewhere, and they want to build their utopia there, but they're like draining the energy from Florida. And I'm all about, we need these centers down here.
It's like everything else. I mean, once again, you're sitting in a Kava bar, in the Dignitary Tea and Kava house. We serve Kava and Kratom. Frank the Kava G, who's the man. Like he won't even make the Kava. He's not in a good mood. That's what it's about. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
It just seems like marijuana, Kava, Kratom, ayahuasca. They all kind of link together.
They're all plants that are here to give us the medicines that we need to clear our minds of the static that's being fed to us through the machine.
Absolutely.
And they're reminding us that we are earthlings. Because I thought about this the other day, and I was talking to my lady about it. How many people go from bed to the car, to work, to the store, back to the car, back home, and never touch the ground? Actually never had their feet on the ground. Let's say go to the beach or something.
Sure, yeah.
It's like I make it a daily, I only wear shoes when I leave.
Okay.
But when I'm home or in my yard, I'm barefoot.
You're a very natural person.
Have to be.
Very natural.
Doing what I do. I had a lady stop by yesterday. She's from Nigeria, and she's out in front of my house. And I come out, and she goes, "You must have cameras here." I go, "Nope." She goes, "How'd you know I was out here?" And I'm like, "My plants told me you were out here." And she's just like, "Holy Jesus!" And it was so funny. She's like, "I get the Holy Spirit coming through me." She's like, "When you shook my hand, I felt healing energy." And it was a really beautiful conversation with her. And she told me, she goes, "The Creator's telling me that this yard's going to make you money. It's going to make your living." And she had no idea that I make Florida water from my flowers, or that I sell the ayahuasca tincture from the vine.
Wow.
She had no idea that I've been selling it all over the country.
So where do you sell it exactly? We had an event here. DJ put the event on, and I thought it was an amazing event. We're gonna do it again, and you fit perfectly with what was going on. I mean, you just do a lot of those.
Well, I started out on just on Facebook, and I still to this day haven't even got a website hooked up yet.
Really?
Because Facebook took off. Sure. Because my friend Greg Lake, who owns Anthony O Connect, had done an interview with me about my Florida water, and an interview with me about peyote. Put him on his page, and next thing you know, he's also an Anthony O lawyer. Helps put together legal churches and stuff, so that these sacraments can be partaken with in different states and stuff. And just getting on there with him, all of a sudden, there are people, facilitators and churches, ayahuasca churches all over the place, are contacting me for my product, because it's something that is needed in ceremony, and it came from ceremony. The vision of it came from ceremony, and my goal with making this Florida water was I wanted to get into as many ceremonies as I could while I was mourning my mom.
Okay.
So my mom had passed away right before COVID, and had passed away, and all of a sudden here I am trying something new. My birthday is October 25th, and that was the first year. Now it's this will be 3 years now.
Wow.
And it just gradually has grown. And then myself getting into ceremonies, starting to get back into ceremonies, and now I'm being called the church in the Leaf and Divine Church in Denver, Colorado is an ayahuasca church. They buy my products, and they want me to come out and lead ceremony in Denver.
So there's actually ayahuasca churches?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, so once again, I don't, the word church, I'm not an overly religious person.
I'm the same way.
Church means something to me, and I don't know if that's negative or positive or either way, but like ayahuasca and church, I'm not sure they go together. But I might go to ayahuasca church before I go to another church.
That's the thing. It's an ayahuasca church, so because we do we have different sacraments. This is our legal protection under a nonprofit, under a church.
Absolutely.
And it just, to me, it makes more sense because when what you're doing in these ceremonies, when people are coming from all over into the ceremony, what you're doing is you're creating communion because you're sharing a medicine, you're praying. There's usually a main prayer with the peyote. There's a main prayer, and with ayahuasca, it's singular, but there's facilitators that oversee.
Beautiful.
That just take care of everybody, that make sure everything goes smoothly, and then there's integration afterwards.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, you're so interesting. We're going to continue to go with you. We were going to go to Tom, but we're going to get Tom next week. I still got to let people know where to go for these, rituals and stuff like that. So for the next 7 minutes, we're going to still talk to you about ayahuasca. And so for myself, if I want to go to a ceremony, do I have to go to you? Do you come to other people? How are ceremonies done?
Well, like I said, I'm connected with everybody across the country, down through Central America, South America. It's basically you pick where you want to go to the ceremony,
really.
And we have enough facilitators, to lead these ceremonies.
So if I'm going to Colombia, I can say I'm going to Colombia, and there'll be somewhere.
We could hook you up with that
right here.
Or you could do your own private ceremony with yourself. You could do a ceremony with a small group of your friends.
Really?
You could bring in people. We can make it happen for you to where you are the most comfortable. And you don't and without all the travel. We're in Florida.
Yeah, no doubt. That's very interesting. Now, talk to me about the ceremony. Say we were to have a ayahuasca ceremony here in Dignitary Tea and Kava House. Say I have 5 of my people. Okay, how does that work exactly? Everybody's taking something with buckets here.
Well,
like how does that work?
What I prefer myself is outside around the fire.
Okay.
I prefer
nighttime is better.
Nighttime is better,
Okay.
and I prefer outside around the fire, more on the ground, away from electricity. You're not so in a box of electricity.
Love it, yeah.
You're out more in the nature, and you're on the ground. It's different. And I've done both ceremonies. I've been in both ceremonies. I've helped facilitate both kinds of ceremonies. And they all have their goods and bads, but I prefer outside because you're on the ground.
It can't really be around a lot of other stuff, though, right?
No.
Like when you have a ceremony, it's got to be.
Yeah, we have people turn off their phones, and their phones are kept off. All electronics are turned off. There's a lot of people that want to film themselves, and to me, that's the ego.
That's well, you know what? that's what's wrong with our country.
Yep.
It's not about the experience. It's about documenting the experience.
And that's the thing is like. I learned this in Hawaii. I'd watch people drive down the road with their cameras out their windows, and I said, "That's kind of funny. They're filming their vacation so they can go home and watch it."
But they're missing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're missing their whole vacation because they're looking through their lens,
Sure.
and then they're going to go home and sit in front of their TV and watch their vacation.
Yeah, well, I just went to a concert the other day, and I'm sitting there filming, and I'm watching everybody else filming the concert. I realize I'm not watching the concert. You know what I mean? That's this crazy world we live in. So, what's the name of your company?
Okay, my company's called Xochipilli's Apothecarium in Botanica.
I dare you to spell it.
Xochipilli, Xochipilli.
Missed a letter.
Wait, this is a funny one. It's Xochipilli.
And that means what?
Xochipilli is an Aztec, or basically ancient Mixteca god of entheogenics, of plants.
Okay.
And the 4-foot statue that was found of him in Mexico, he has peyote, mushrooms, and vines and stuff carved on him.
Really?
And that's.
I'm gonna look him up.
This came to me in a vision. I was in Fort Myers doing a ceremony, and I have a ceremonial necklace that has Xochipilli on it. It turned jade green, projected a 3D image of Xochipilli in front of me, and he was surrounded by butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds.
So your necklace was a projector?
It projected him out in front of me. Now he's dancing, right? Pulls me to my feet, and as I'm stepping, everywhere he stepped, the flower would come up, and if I would step there, I could smell the flower, and that's where the Xochipilli's dance came in.
Wow, that's amazing. See, I bought this from you the other day, and this is kind of like a, what would you?
It's like a spiritual cologne.
Spiritual cologne.
Florida water.
It's natural. And what is in this exactly?
Well, I take sugarcane and papayas and different fruits that are in season, and I ferment them and distill them, create the base for this, and then I have flowers that I also run through and distill, and then I add the essential oils from those flowers back to the alcohol, and I make these for spiritual protection in ceremony. Because a lot of the ceremonies using this kind called Murrian land mints, which is not natural at all, 100% synthetic, and I see it being used by the natives in South America and everything, and it's like you can buy this stuff in Walmart.
Sure.
So I started making this and teaching people about how this is made with Florida spring water. It's not a story. It's an actual thing. And like I said, people are buying it all over the country and using it in ceremonies. So it's like I'm getting myself into ceremony and just helping people out with the knowledge that I've been able to pull together for 30 years, but I put a lot of prayers in this work.
No doubt. Well, I like what you're about, the natural thing. You know who you remind me of?
Who's that?
Rick Rubin.
Rick Rubin.
You know who Rick Rubin is?
I do not.
Go look up Rick Rubin.
Rick Rubin.
Like Rick Rubin was one of the coolest cats ever, dude. Ricky Rubin was the producer for Beastie Boys and Run DMC.
Okay.
He has a long white beard, very spiritual guy.
Yeah.
He was in his house once and they did an interview with him. And as they're doing the interview, I think he had like an abacus over here. And as the interview's going, like a yak walked by in his house. Like I think you need a yak in your house. You know what I mean? Something like that. So before we let you go, if somebody wants to be involved with the ceremonies, we got 40 seconds, how to get in contact with you.
Well, find me on Facebook, Inawakan. That's what I go, my Facebook page is Inawakan. Or look me up, Xochipilli's Apothecarium of Botanica. Send me a private message.
That's
and, that's all you need to do.
It's that easy.
Yeah.
Well, you're already part of this building. You were here part of our event. We'd love to start selling your stuff here. We'll talk about that. And as we go forward, I have a funny feeling we're gonna do some events here and some sessions for sure.
We were talking earlier about I don't know if we touched on this, but a friend of mine, 49 years old, had a stroke. I was actually talking to a fellow out there, Tom, I think. And we've come across now being able to work with DMT and strokes. I've also found out it's also very good to help with people that have had concussions.
And this is a natural thing, and that's what Plant Power is all about. Everybody, Plant Power. Everybody have a wonderful week. Peace out.